Good evening, everyone. Tonight we're going to have Gary Binford. He's my guest. He is a radio host, foremost a Christian and a follower of Jesus Christ, conservative and defender of the Constitution. Gary's a good friend of mine. I've been on his show a couple of times, a couple different places. I met him at Rock the Red down in South Carolina back in January. It was wonderful to meet you, Gary. Gary has a show on United Radio, or the Patriot Nation Radio Network, called United Patriot Uprising. Sorry about that. It's a lot to say. He's also the founder of Nation Savers 2020, and you can find that on Facebook. He was also part of the Rocky and Wolfman radio show on the WIN World Integrity News Network. Everybody, welcome Gary to the show. Gary Binford. Thank you for being on.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. It's good to talk to you again. And although I can't see you personally and haven't seen you since January, virtual Zoom is the best we can do for now. So once again, thanks for having me on.
No problem, Gary. And I invited you on because you're one of my favorite media guys that I know. And yes, I like what you say. You're bombastic sometimes, and you put it out there, and you believe in what you believe in all the way. And that's what I like about you.
Thank you.
So I brought you on to ask you some questions. I've heard little tidbits and side things about you and what you've done in your past. And one of the things I realized, you were a what do you call it, a sports writer for Newsday. And could you explain how that worked and what your education was to get to that point where you could do that? Because it sounds like a very exciting occupation.
Well, it's very interesting. My journey started in Summit, New Jersey. And at the age of 5, I started playing the piano. At the age of 8, I started playing the xylophone. Around 10, the trumpet, then picked up the organ. And I was not the greatest athlete, so I played a little bit of soccer, but mainly I had a love of sports too. My father had been in the Negro Leagues in a lower level, and he had been a baseball shortstop and had indoctrinated me into sports. So I had two loves, sports and music. And leaving high school, I had to make a decision. I wanted to either be a combination of James Brown and Billy Preston, or I wanted to be Howard Cosell. And I started at Ohio Northern University, transferred to Ohio University, majored in both journalism and music, and still didn't know what I wanted to do. I started out with the music and was in a band, Funkomatic Transmission, and was trying to have a music career. But then I just decided in the middle of stream, let me see what I can do with the sports writing. So I started writing sports. And it seemed like, I guess they thought I was pretty good at it because they let me write for the school paper, the Post, Ohio University Post, then for the Athens Messenger. And then I went and served an internship at the Cleveland Plain Dealer building for the Associated Press. It was the summer of the NFL players strike, and I got to do that. And when I came out, I decided, let's give this journalism a try. And I, with my ego at that time, decided, let's start at all the big papers and work my way down. So being from New Jersey, I wanted to write in New York. I didn't think they'd take me, but Newsday, they gave me an opportunity to write. And I started at the bottom, worked my way up. And by 1983, I was given the Knicks beat. That was my first major beat. And that was right at the time when Bernard King was going crazy. And then Patrick Ewing came in. So there were some glory years.
That sounds awesome. Just the fact that your father was in the United or the Negro Leagues is a fascinating story. I'm sure you could tell a lot of things about that. But yeah, I see your education matches your occupation. So that's great. I think that's awesome. So you were in New York City with Newsday. Tell me, I have some questions for you. How long did you work there? How long were you in the news business?
Right. I started at Newsday in 1975, and I went to 1988. And I went to the Daily News in 1989 and left in 1993, in January of 1993. But, sometimes they just say there's just certain things in your blood, Kevin, and music was just in my blood. And when I had an opportunity in the late 80s to kind of dabble in music management, I kind of stuck my feet in the water, got involved with Will Hart and the Delphonics, and they helped get me into big time music. when they were on tour with the Stylistics, Dramatics, and the Manhattans, and I just caught the bug again. And then in the early 1990s, I started managing a world-class flute player, Dwayne Kerr. He's on D-Man's Records, Funky Flute Man. And I caught the music bug, and for 14 years, I was Dwayne's personal manager. And probably the hardest thing that I've ever had to do in my life, I had made him a promise. We were flying back from a gig in Orlando. I had made him a promise. We were flying over Tennessee, and he turned to me and he said, you know, I'd like you to be my manager as long as I can earn a living. You're willing to make that promise to me? And I said I would. And I ended up having to break that promise because in 1997, I got saved, became a born-again Christian. Jesus Christ became my Lord and Savior. And God had another plan for me. If I'd stayed in the music business, you would not have met me. And everything that I am doing for God, family, country, Constitution, for this kingdom and God's kingdom of earth would have never happened. Somebody else would have done it. I would have missed my opportunity. The Lord told me to leave the music business. I left it. I didn't understand why. He opened this door, and he's given me a forum and a voice where it's not about me, and it's not about trying to get mine and trying to make $1 million, or even the love of the music and the show and putting the show together. And Dwayne is a world-class. I'm telling you, check him out, people. He's a world-class flautist. The thing was, God wanted me to do something for him. And I answered that bell. I answered that call. And you can see the doors he's opened for me, and he continues to open doors.
I agree with you. Amen to that. You're a remarkable person overall, and I enjoy listening to you and your philosophy, and you always bring God into everything you do. That's what I like about you.
Can I say why? I got to tell you why. It's important. When I was a journalist and when I was in music, I was somewhat successful, but I was doing it on my own and in my own strength and for me, and it was secular. Once you belong to Jesus Christ and you do things for him, he will open doors for you. You're doing it for, as I said, God, family, country, Constitution, the things that are important to God. And he will open the doors for you and you will not fail. See, I only was able to achieve certain levels of success on my own, because you know how the world is, Kevin. It'll build you up, it'll knock you back down. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and there's a lot of struggles and a lot of hardships and a lot of things, and almost kill myself trying to get rich, you know, going that route. And just found out that the only thing that really stands the test of time are the things you do for Christ, because those are the only things that'll last. I'm more concerned about doing things where before I did it for people and wanted to hear the crowd and everybody tell me how great I was or this or the other thing. Right now, the only thing I'm concerned about is hearing my Heavenly Father tell me, well done, good and faithful servant. And that's what it's all about for me. That's why you hear me sound the way I sound, because I know God has my back.
All right. So going back to your sports writing, tell me about your best interview. I've heard some big names that you mentioned in the past on your radio shows. Who's the biggest people you interviewed and that you got to know?
Okay, well, my favorite athlete of all time is Irving Magic Johnson of the Los Angeles Lakers. And he was one of my best interviews. He's still my favorite story. And one of the things I learned, and I give credit to the person I actually replaced at Newsday, he moved on to a Washington paper. His name, Doug Smith. And I remember my first couple years at Newsday, I was just doing enough to get by, and I was a big party guy. I was young, out of college. I went to Ohio U. You know Ohio U, number one party school in the country back then. So I still had this party bug in me. And Doug sat me down one day, and I'm thinking I'm this big writer in New York, and he's eating with me in the cafeteria, and he says, Gary, you got a lot of talent, but you're not using it properly because you're just writing on the surface. What makes people want to read what you're going to write is digging down deep and finding the essence of the soul of what makes somebody who they are. That turned my life around because I started doing that, and I can give you a couple examples. So I'll give you an example with Magic Johnson. Everybody writes about how great he is, and he was a winner in high school and Lansing High School. But I want to find out from him why. And he told a fascinating story. He said when he was too young to play with the big boys on the playgrounds, he would watch. And he said the guys they pick, and some guys would pick all 5 scorers, right? And everybody wanted the ball, they wouldn't share, and they'd lose. And they walk off the court and say, well, I had 9 points in the game to 21. And somebody will say, I had 7. And Magic said, yeah, but you lost. There's 10 other teams waiting to play. You can't play again until for 4 hours. And he said, when I was old enough, I learned, don't pick everybody that's the best scorers. Get a guy that can rebound. Get a guy that can assist. Get a guy that can play defense. Get a score. Let me distribute the ball. And he said we played all night until the sun went down. I'll tell you a funny story. It was Larry Bird he didn't really like sitting with reporters a long time. And they're playing the Lakers one year. And Larry, this was who I became. So I was asking him questions that nobody had ever asked him. Like I found out his love of Cher and all kind of things. His father committed suicide. We got into all kind of things. And the interview was supposed to be 20 minutes. We were in Logan Airport, getting ready to fly to LA. And he's like, Dennis Johnson and Danny Ainge and guys are walking by me. And I'm walking by us, and Bird's smiling, I'm smiling. And I asked them later after the interview, which lasted for about 60 minutes, they said, why do you guys keep coming around? They said, we couldn't believe it. Larry doesn't talk to anybody for 60 minutes. So I was really blessed. As you know, I have the gift of gab, and there was just so many people, like Bernard King when he was the Knick, Patrick Ewing, but Magic Johnson was my all-time favorite. It was incredible being around George Steinbrenner. And I did get to interview Donald Trump twice. Once was when he signed Herschel Walker, when Donald was the owner of the New Jersey Generals, the Football League. And I don't remember. I have to go in my file and find out what the other story was about. But Donald called me right back. You know, a lot of mega bosses, you know, you say even from the Daily News or Newsday or something, they get back to you when they feel like it. Donald called me right back. So he was
pretty awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Those are big names. Did I hear you mention MJ before?
Yeah, Michael Jordan. Michael. Michael is funny. Michael is the most competitive person. I don't beat him in cards, don't beat him in anything. We had a pretty good relationship. And there was a story. I'm glad you brought Michael up, because there are so many. There's Muhammad. There's so many, because I was I was blessed for a number of years to cover a lot of major events. And I'll just give you a story. It was either Christmas or Thanksgiving. I do not remember. I was married at the time. My wife was right here in this very place where I'm speaking right now, preparing Thanksgiving dinner. My family came to the game to see Michael Jordan play the Knicks. And I went down to the locker room before the game. I said, Mike, my family's here from New Jersey. They want to meet you. Can you meet them? He said, Gary, I'll meet him after the game. He must have scored 60 or 50, whatever it was. It went long. The game, the press conference went long. Phil Jackson, it comes in their dressing room. Oh, let's go, because the bus was taking them back to the airport to fly back to Chicago right after the game. It was a noon game. My family is sitting out there waiting, and here comes Michael. And he came out. He talked to my sister. She'll never forget it. He talked to my mother and father for about 5 or 6 minutes. And little did I know, I didn't know at the time, the bus to go back to the airport had left. He stayed, honored what he said he was going to do, met my family, and then took a cab to the airport. So that's
pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, that's how he was at that time with me. And it was very interesting in those times, because I caught the Knicks as my beat at the right time, and I caught pro basketball. I was a basketball writer. So you had Bird and Magic and Elijah Wan and Isaiah Thomas, who I had a nice relationship with all, and you had Barkley and you had Julius Erving and a couple guys and the old school guys, Moses Malone. They were starting to fade out, but you had all these guys coming in like Ewing, and Karl Malone. And it was a golden age of basketball, because it was just wonderful at that time. And to be in New York and to be a part of that Knick team with Pat Riley and Rick Pitino and even Hubie Brown that started it was a lot of fun.
That sounds pretty awesome, being around all those tall guys. I'm pretty sure their guys are like giants to even
Bill Cartwright. I had a very good relationship with Bill Cartwright. We would be places. Bill Cartwright was 7'1", and I'm 5'7". That looked,
Mhm.
looked very weird.
Ooh, looking way up.
Can I tell you one more story?
Sure.
So the people said I should write a book. Maybe one day I will.
I was going to ask you that down the road. That was going to be one of my next questions.
Well, if I was still in the world, I probably would. But right now, for me, it's about the kingdom of Christ and doing whatever it is to try and keep our country from going communist. So that's where my head is now. I'll tell you a funny story. I used to play little games with a lot of the Knicks. I do free throw contests with Truck Robinson, horse with Trent Tucker, Kenny Walker, and Louis Orr. And I made the mistake one day, and I fool around one-on-one. I can't play basketball like these guys. I fool around. They just take shots and we play one-on-one because they could go by me and dunk backwards if they felt like it. But they just take long jumpers and really wouldn't get up on me and guard me. So I asked Bernard King one day, let's play one-on-one. He said, fine. So he takes me down low, bumps my chest, turns around, and shoots his patented jumper from 6 feet from the basket. All right. So he does it again, and he does it again, and he's tearing my chest up because he makes contact first. This is how he played. And he was actually playing me like he was playing Dominique Wilkins or Larry Bird. And eventually I opened my mouth. I said, Bernard, I know you can do that. He said, Gary, this is my game. This is my court. If you can't stand the heat, go back and write. But if you can't stand it, get out of the kitchen. And that was Bernard. And I respected that because it's a funny story to me because that's the only way he played. He didn't. And Michael's the same way. I don't know how to let up. Bernard just tore me up, and I'm not taking it easy on you. I don't take it easy on people. This is my game, and if you can't handle it, go. To me, that's a funny story.
That is, because he is what he is. People are what they are. People, all right, they won't back off or whatever. That's what they do. That's what they practice. They live it. So I can't imagine. Can you imagine being in the NBA and facing that every day, every game from different players? I couldn't even imagine. Of course, they're probably in a lot better shape than we are. So that's what they get paid for. So I was going to ask you about a book. I know you kind of explained that you're not really interested in writing a book about that, but are there any other things you could write a book about possibly? I know you're heavy into the Red movement or the Patriot movement because of your radio station and everything. Have you thought about doing anything with that?
I write all the time, but what I think I'm more geared at this point, Kevin, to writing theses and to writing things for magazines and for internet publications. I wrote a thing on Marxism for the Conservative Business Journal that you also have written for, John DeLemmy's outstanding publication.
Yes, it is.
I did a thesis on Christians and voting. Why, if you claim Jesus Christ, you cannot be a Democrat. I wrote a thesis on that circulated nationally. I am more apt to, at this point in time, because I'm so active, because I have in my ministry, what I do is a hobby. What you see is United Patriots Uprising. Maybe I wanted it to be a job, but God had other plans. So it's a hobby. I do it, but it comes second. What comes first is my relationship with the Lord and doing whatever it has to do, whatever I can do to affect change of his kingdom here on the earth. So that comes first. My ministry comes first. What you see me do comes second. The thing is, they blend together because God, family, country, constitution. If God is not going to bless America, America will fall. So it's very important that Christians and people understand that we need God's help. And we need it more than ever right now. And you can see it because these communist, socialist, Marxists are trying to take over this country. I am more likely at this point in time to be writing about issues such as that. I'm getting ready to do a piece for the Conservative Business Journal on socialism in our America. No way, no shape, no how, not on our watch. I'd rather do those type of things now. And maybe down the line, Kevin, when I'm just packed it in as far as doing secular type things like this, I may think the time to sit down because I understand what it takes to write a book, and it's a lot.
I'm sure you do. So
and
I agree with you.
Book. How long did it take you to do your book?
Well, I started writing it probably in 2009, 2011.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't get serious until I only had 5,000 words. So I didn't get serious till 2018 after I got into an automobile accident on I-75 in Dayton, Ohio. And then I couldn't do anything else. I had lot of physical problems for a while there, concussions and all kinds of things. So I had time to sit down and concentrate. I gave up music at the church for a while. Still haven't been back, but writing the book was more important than anything else. I just sat down and I started writing, and then I finally got the book finished in December of 2019. And it's something from my heart. I think it's different that way. It's something that I believed in, that I actually lived, a subject that bothered me that I wanted to get out and make awareness of. So it was easy to write. I had no problems with that because it was actually from me instead of me researching. I did a lot of research, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things in the book you're going to learn about that you never knew, or that I never knew.
I read it. It's good.
Oh, thank you. And that's how I got it. It took me, I'm going to say maybe 5 years to write and 10 months to publish from start to finish.
Well, you said an interesting thing, Kevin. And you said you were able to get the book done because it's you. The one thing that I would tell people is, and this goes along, thank you for mentioning My Nation Savers 2020 on Facebook. People, please go check it out. If you like what you see, give it a like, click, and follow, and you'll get the post. And the logo, the slogan is "Just get one, flip blue to red." Just flip blue to red. Just get one. And that's what I'm telling people. See, we can affect change in the nation just by finding something that you can do that you have a passion for. The key to you getting the book done was you had the desire and the passion to do it. This is why I do what I do right now, because I have a passion for it. I have the fire in the belly, the burning in the heart, and I just don't have that for writing the book right now. And I would tell people, whatever your passion is, run with that, because when you have to climb a couple hurdles, or when the going gets a little bit tough, or when things start happening and things aren't necessarily always going your way, because they never will, you'll be willing to fight through it. Because this has been a chore. I started Nation Savers as 2016, and that was to try and stop the left from winning that election. And even now, we're in a war. We're in a war for soul of this country. Because it's not about socialism, people. The communists, the only reason they want socialism is because in a free country, socialism is the bridge to communism. That's the only way you can get to communism in a free country where people have free elections and that constitution. They have to get that constitution out. So I would just tell people, find a passion, find something you're passionate about, and do it. And you can help affect change, because if you get one and somebody else gets one and somebody get one and they get one, we can affect change in this country. And again, that's what I mean about passion. My passion right now is in what I do. It's in doing the radio show. I've had great guests, as you see. I've been blessed to have a lot of high-profile people come on this show, on a little internet radio show. And every week you're going to see high-profile people that are going to come out and tell you the truth. That's my passion. The Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is my passion. Writing, small pieces is my passion. And that's why I go with that. And if a book ever comes around where I start to feel that's my passion, I will go that direction.
Gary, and I agree with you 100%, because when you have passion, you can't put it down. You can't not complete it, because it's got to come out. That's why this book I got to push and push to where I got it out. I had to get it out.
Yeah.
And one weekend I sat down and wrote 10,000 extra words, because you have to have so many words to be a novella. So I got to that level, and I had all the stuff was there, and it just came right out. And that's if you don't have the passion for it, it's not going to have the same meaning. I totally get what you're saying. So,
well, can I say one thing? Because this is you're one of the first people of all the interviews I've done that has asked me about my past. Because I don't talk much about my past, because as a born-again person, the Gary Binford of old is dead and buried. I'm born again. I'm a new person in Christ. But I do have a past, and that past gave me a future. And here's what I mean. Little did I know, like the person you see now and the credit that you're giving me for doing the show or for my writing and putting things together, I learned how to write when I was a sports writer. I learned from a lot of those pro athletes and coaches how to focus, how to be dedicated, how to try and work to win, how to compete. Okay? I learned how to in the music business, I learned how to market. I learned how to promote because I did Dwayne's promotion. I did his publicity. I didn't take it to chance if he was going to do an interview. I sent a bio and a bio in such a way that the questions that they would want to ask him were already written in, so there wouldn't be any surprises where they sit down and don't know who they're talking to and what they're talking about. So I learned promotion, marketing, publicity through the music, and now you put them all together, and now I'm able to market on Facebook, promote my own radio show, you know, and everything I do is a culmination of everything from both of those previous careers that when I walked away from both of them, thought I'd probably never use them again. Surprise! You understand what I'm saying? So that what you see now is just a culmination of two careers that are dead and buried. But what I learned, I was able to put together and use now for the glory of God and country.
So you're saying you were in school all that time?
Didn't know it. I was out there trying to get mine, out there trying to be famous and get rich and all these things that really are fleeting and don't really matter in the eyes of the Lord. I didn't know any better.
Right, you're right.
See, and by the way, I was completely apolitical. I didn't care about anything political. It's got to knock socks off of people that knew me previously that I even would think about doing anything like this, because I could not have cared less. All I cared about was sports, music, and having a good time in the clubs. That's it.
So that's the Gary I don't know. So I'm happy to know you now.
Praise God, dead and buried.
Yes, sir. That's pretty awesome. I like that. Your show is wonderful. Everybody, you need to watch the United Patriots Uprising. That's an awesome show, and I'm going to put a link on this page for that.
Oh, thanks, Kevin. I really appreciate it.
And you know, you have the best guests in the world on. I don't know how you get all these people, and the thing is, one thing I was really impressed with was when you had the interview with the actress that played on Dallas, and we learned
will be back on the next show for the third time, Morgan Brittany.
Oh yeah, that's
She'll
fascinating.
Be back on the next show.
It's fascinating. If you guys get a chance, the next show coming up, when is that going to be, Gary?
The next show is going to be, let me get this right, October 19th. Is this the most important election in our lifetime? She will be one of the guests. Morgan be on there. Tom Del Beccaro be on there. Dr. Elena George, who you met down at Rock the Red. Angel Mom Sabine Durden, a woman that was be executed by a Romanian communist in Romania, Virginia Prodan. She's going to be on. Dr. Leola Anafawosi. It's going to be a wonderful show of people explaining why this is the most important election in our lifetime. And I'd like to just say one thing, since you brought up Morgan Brittany and you asked, how do I get the guests? You know, some people you just happen to know. I was a sports writer here in New York. Burgess Owens played for the New York Jets. I've known Burgess Owens since 1976. So when I gave him a call, yeah, Gary, I'll help you out. But the very first show, that first show went down to the wire. And I have a friend out in California. She's in multimedia. Her name is Beverly Zaslow. And Beverly knew everybody. I said, Beverly, I'm going to try and do a show. And she talked to me. I said, do you think I can do this? She said, yeah, I'll get you some people. So I gave her a whole list of people, see who she could get. And it was really interesting because I had Burgess Owens and I had Curtis Bowers from the Agenda documentary movies, because I knew them. They were coming on. And the show was Monday night. And Beverly had told me, Morgan Brittany wants to do the show and she's going to get people and this. And it's Friday night, 2 in the morning Friday night, which is 10 California time. I get a what do you call it? My cell phone rings and it's Beverly. She said, Morgan's in. And then the next day, noon, Nick Searcy. Remember Sergeant Art Marshall? I think Art Marshall from from the television show.
Yeah, I remember him.
Right. Yeah. And he says, Nick will do the show. She goes, now he's busy doing a movie, so he can't. You're not gonna hear from him. But just tell him what time you want him and call him. He'll be there. And she was right. So it takes friends. And then friends begot friends, and Morgan has been on twice. She's coming on again. She's recommended people, and other people, now that people have seen how the show works, they recommend people. So it's going pretty well, and that's a blessing.
Yeah, I listened to that program. That was your first one, I believe. Cersei and Brittany. I was blown away because she was talking about things that I saw, back in the 80s, like when JR got shot and the whole thing, the premise, everything. I was like, wow. And she played on these shows in the 60s and everything. I was like, this is
She was a child star. She was on like Twilight Zone as a kid, and she was on Sea Hunt with Lloyd Bridges. She was on every show. We've talked off the air several times about her upbringing, because she, I think, was in 5 decades in Hollywood. She's retired now and does Politichicks. Her and Anne-Marie Morel, they're the co-founders of Politichicks, which is a conservative political site. That's a great site. Check it out. Politichicks, people. You'll love it. The thing was, off the air, she had told me before we even got on the air the first time, we really bonded. It worked very well. We had enjoyed it. We probably talked an hour and a half. I knew the interview was going to go very, very well, because she had such insight of watching how there was a love of America when she was in her teens, when she was a kid, and how the studios, everybody was about family and America. And this, you heard her. This is what she said on that first show, and how she slowly saw it changing. And she talked about how, like the movie, like The Wild Bunch, brought in violence, how a Psycho brought in gore, how Lolita brought in sex, how The Midnight Cowboy brought in homosexuality, and how Hollywood just slowly moved the football down the field until we got to this point where we are today, where it's not even Hollywood anymore, it's Hollyweird.
That's right. It is Hollyweird now. I grew up the same way. I grew up all about, I was in the military as a child, or a military brat, and all I saw was red, white, and blue, flags, stars, and stripes, America, America, America. And that's what I ended up. And when I got out of high school, it's the same thing. I joined the military, and that's what I believe in. I believe in this country and the patriotism. I don't want to see, like you're saying, socialism take over. That's there's no choices there. There's no freedom. And just like you and John DeLimmer always talk about, socialism kills, and we need to stay the way we are. We need to expand what Trump has already given us, for freedom. It's all about freedom and choice.
Kevin, you know what else kills? You know what else kills? John DeLimmer kills. I love John. This is a joke. John is always calling me 12:30, 1:30 in the morning. I don't get any sleep anymore. He calls me Binford. You saw that picture? He put a big afro on me like I'm a member of Silver. Binford, you're awesome. It's 1:30 in the morning. I got one eye open. I'm like, John? No, it's a joke, because I do biblical counseling. I work with my best friend, Kenny Harmon, during the evening, and then DeLimmer knows he can't get me till after 11. So it's funny, but we're on the phone with John, and he helps keep me up. And I don't mean up at night. I mean up as far as that what I do, and we both game on, don't back up, no weakness, forge strong ahead, because that's what the left does. You see it with Antifa, you see it with Black Lives Matters, 2 communist organization group. They're not about what they say they are. They're about getting rid of the Constitution, just like all these other left-wing groups are. And you need to get reinforcement, and to hear that, what you're doing, that it matters. And John is very good at that. He's very upbeat, and we keep each other all fired up. I talk to him, I want to go out and hurt somebody. He's very passionate. And see, you have a different type of passion, Kevin. Like, you're cool and laid back, but I know you're a military guy, and I know if somebody were to give you a hard time, probably, they wish they hadn't, I would think.
Right. Yeah. My beliefs are my beliefs. They can't be changed. That's just the way it is. Yeah. I like how you guys are positive and passionate about what you believe in. That's what I am. I write that way too. I write articles as well. And they're all about, the truth, and what I know, my research. Some of these articles take a lot of research. People don't realize it. You're just not writing stuff on paper. So, and you can add your passion to that and what you believe. And I think that's a great way to express how you feel about things with facts and truth. So that's the whole thing. It's about truth and facts, which is not in the other party.
Right. See, that's why they yell and scream and call you names. Because
Yeah.
if they had facts on their side, they would debate you. And this is what I tell people. You can win in the arena of ideas. This is where we win. Give facts. They don't have facts. Their truth will dash its foot against a stone because all they have are lies and innuendos and spin doctoring and twisting things. And the Democrats have come out and let you know their whole agenda is socialist. Cultural Marxism is taking over the schools, Hollywood, the evangelical church, the workplace. Cultural Marxism, you can't say this, you can't say that. If somebody says something on the right, they're evil. If somebody says something on the left, they're good. See, it's very interesting. Like Biden can say, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, or if you go into 7-Eleven, you can't even go in there and somebody doesn't have an Indian accent. Just imagine if Donald Trump had said anything like that. You understand? See, there's two different sets of rules, but we can't let them get away. People, what we must do is hold our ground, exactly like Kevin said. You don't back up, you don't give in. You don't punch people out, you don't have to fight them, just give them the facts. And they'll melt like the Wicked Witch on the West. And they'll run, or they may call you names. But the one thing they will know they did it because they were defeated, and hopefully it'll change for election night. I really believe, listening to a lot of the guests that I've had come on, and I always ask them, what do you think is going to happen? And a lot of people think a lot of people on the left are going to stay home. They just can't vote for Joe Biden. They see what the Democratic Party's becoming. They see they're going full-blown socialist. They just can't get behind it. They may not be able to vote for Donald Trump, and they may never want to be a conservative, but they'll just sit it out. And that's half a victory.
I totally agree with you on that. And the thing is, my passion comes from, a lot of it comes from my military career and everything. Things that I've seen, if you've been to these other countries that are like what they want us to be, you don't want that. You don't want to have no choice. Like I was in Hungary and they only had like a couple rules of this or that. Yeah, they only had one brand of this and they don't have any money there and people are poor. But, they get free this and free that. And other countries I've been to where there's dictators running it, like Noriega in Panama, you don't want that because we were told like you got to play by their rules when you're visiting a country. If they give you if you order a fish, some kind of dish or something, and you want something on the side and it doesn't look like anything you ordered, well, policy is we agree with that because we don't want to cause any trouble. We have a dictator running the country. And then you have to deal with the consequences. You don't want to live like that as an American. And that's what we're going to. Look what happened to Venezuela. Venezuela went downhill fast.
Yes. when I was married, we used to cruise a lot. My former wife worked for Canard Cruise Line, and we had been in Caracas several times, not like it is today. And you brought up a very good point about other countries. Isn't it interesting? The left wants to tell you how racist and bigoted and how nobody wants to live in America. So then why are they trying to bring people over here? If we're such a racist, bigoted country, why wouldn't you tell people to stay out rather than come in? And if we're such a racist, bigoted country, why are people risking their life to get here?
It's like, right, the southern border. People, just because they're saying that they're being put in cages and separated. Well, that's better than where they came from. They're willing to do that. So it's so good here. It's no problem for them. This is the best they're going to get, even inside that detainment center, because they know beyond that gate is freedom. So there's no freedom. Freedom's not everywhere. Everywhere is different than where we are. Or there's some countries like that, but we're pretty much the most free country, the most innovation, the best in the medical. And so you don't want to. People don't understand European standards are completely different. I would not want to live in Europe and some of the rules they have. There's things that people don't realize.
See, you brought up another good point, Kevin, when you talked about, I'll give you an example, people, of how you fight the left. So they wanted to say Donald Trump is ripping babies out of the arms of their mothers, which he wasn't doing, put them in cages and ripping children from their parents. You look right in their eye and say, yeah, but that's not true. But here's what is true. You have no problem ripping a fetus out of the womb of a mother.
That's right.
You don't
That's
have a
right.
problem with that. You're talking about how it's so inhumane what you're doing to these poor kids. And it's not inhumane what you guys do to these poor fetuses. See, this
Unborn.
is what we do. We have truth on our side. And for whatever they do, we have a counterpoint to counter it with that is truth that just completely stops them in their tracks.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm being deployed different places. I didn't do that for nothing. You know what I mean? I dedicated my life for 30 years. I may appear to be calm, but you know I've been a lot of places. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen other countries operate, and I know that we were in harm's way. United States Air Force, we are the last defense. The U.S. military. You have to realize we are the only things keeping us from going under. We're keeping freedom alive. The entire NATO and Europe, Southwest Asia, Southeast Asia, they depend on us.
They understand that. Yes,
And it's a
indeed.
big responsibility that I took. I'm proud to have done that. But I don't understand why people would like to throw out a wave, you know what I mean? Want to change the system. This is the best system in the world. As far as racism goes, yeah, there's racism there, but I don't believe it's systematic.
No, it's not systematic. And here's another thing, people, you need to do. When somebody calls somebody a racist or says racism, tell them define what it is. What does that mean? Does that mean if you don't like something that is said that's true about any given race, is that racism? Or is it race? Yeah. See, they've changed them. This is cultural Marxism. They've changed the meaning of the word. Racism to them is if you don't agree with everything that has to do with, be it a Black person or even be it the Me Too movement or the homosexual movement or Antifa or Black Lives Matter or whatever. So see, if I call Black Lives Matter a communist group and they'll call me a racist, I say, go on their website, look at what they stand for. Don't they look to me. See, and this is a big problem. We've got to kill this cultural Marxism, Kevin, and stop them from changing the language and make them think about truth. I know what real racism is. I saw it. You know, I'm old enough to have experienced it. What this is now isn't racism. And by the way, it's a phony conception anyway, because as truth be told, as God would say, it's not racism, it's sin. It's part of the sin condition of a fallen world. And here's the proof. One of the great jokes of all time is told by Jimmy Walker, who was JJ on Good Times. And he was on Johnny Carson. He told this joke. He said, you know, I picked up the newspaper and saw where the Protestants and Catholics are fighting in Ireland. And he said, can you believe that the Protestants and Catholics are fighting in Ireland? And he said, it just goes to show where there's a country where there's no Blacks, no Jews, and no Puerto Ricans, people will improvise. See, the point of the matter is if you go to Ireland, people are fighting and killing each other. They're white. If you go to India, you have the Sikhs and you have the Hindus. They're at war. There's no Black people. Go to Africa and look at the different sects and tribes of Africa. They're all Black and they're killing each other or they don't like each other. Look in this country, you know, rich, poor, Black, white, male, female. I remember back in the day where there are universities like Howard University, back when I was in school, that basically didn't want to bring you in unless you were light skinned. And as you know, among the Black community, forever it's been this thing about light skin, dark skin. I had women that told me they liked me, wouldn't go out with me because I was too light. Okay, see, it's a sin. It's part of a sin condition in which people are just looking at people and just don't like them because of this, that, or the other thing. But it's not exclusive between white people and Black people. It is exclusive, period. If you go to any country, you will see this goes on. Okay,
right.
It's not. Now, but the key is, it's not a matter of it does it go on. It's a matter of does it stop you? Does it stop me from economically in a free country achieving our dream? Well, if you look at Jay-Z and Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan, you could go on and on, Clarence. I mean, you could start naming people, and you can see that if you work and if you're willing to have a work ethic, go to school, graduate, don't have babies out of wedlock, and don't become a criminal and get arrested, and find either a career or find a trade, you have a good chance, or start a small business, you can make it in America. And it's a shame. And you want to know what's racist? What's racist are all the gatekeepers. I had Vince Ellison on the show that wrote The Iron Triangle. I recommend people read his book. Vince talked about the black preachers, he talked about the black politicians, and he talked about the black civic organization leaders who are controlling the masses in the black community. And that's what's keeping them down, voting for the Democratic Party, that has to keep you down because they want you on the government dime. They don't want you to raise above your means into the middle class, because then you will be able to be self-sufficient and you will be able to earn your own money. You're going to want to keep more than you give them, and you're going to want to achieve your dream. For anybody to tell you you can't make it, that's racism. That's what the real racism is, to how where black people are telling other black people, we're victims. There's no victims. The only victim in this world was Jesus Christ. No other victim. And you can make it, as Sly said, you can make it if you try. But the key is they don't want you to try, because if you try, you may succeed, and that would be the end of the Democratic Party. And that's what people like Candace Owens is talking about. Pierre Wilson, Brandon Tatum, people from Blexit. They're getting blacks to leave the Democratic Party because they're showing them that everything that they said and everything they told you for 75 years hasn't worked. And all this stuff is going on. They're run by blacks. Can't blame it on white people. So much for the way they see it.
So, Gary, one final thing. You have anything to plug? You want to tell everybody when your show is on next for your next program? Who you're going to have on there? You probably heard my sense of humor a little bit. I was going to tell you who I'd like to plug, but I'm not going to go there. So, but what I will say, thank you for having me on. On Facebook, Nation Savers 2020. If you want to know how to talk to your friends, your relatives, and people in your circles of influence about what is wrong with the left and what is right with God, family, country, and Constitution, and President Trump, I do it in a pithy way. I do it in pictures. I do it in images. I do a little bit of writing. I've done all the homework. Remember what Kevin said? Writing a book takes a lot of time. You got to do a lot of research. I've done the research for you. So Nation Savers 2020 is on Facebook. Then you have United Patriots Uprising. The radio show is every other Monday. It's the first and third Monday of the month. And we're going to have, we have some powerful shows coming up leading to the election. As I said, on the 19th, we're going to talk about is this the most important election in a lifetime? Then we're really going to try and open some eyes leading into this election on the 26th. I'm sticking a show in there because it's so important. Wake up, America. We can't afford to sleep on the enemies within. We're going to have people like former FBI agent John Guandolo talking about communism and talking about radical Islam and terrorism. Claire Lopez, former CIA, coming on talking about what's going on along these lines. Virginia Prodan escaped from communist Romania. She's going to tell you why communism here cannot and should not go. We're going to have a couple other guests on there too, and we're going to get into illegal immigration, communism, and radical Islam. And you need to know about this because we understand what's going on with the left, that they're trying to topple the Constitution. But from inside our country, there are forces that are working along the same lines, just trying to do it a different way to collapse the system. So we have some great things coming up. Hope you check out United Patriots Uprising. And Kevin, thank you very much. I really enjoy it. I always enjoy talking to you. And I keep thinking about that Sunday where we're sitting around the table with you, me, Lucretia Hughes, Jerry McDaniel, and Robin Holly, and Joshua. And that's a power table there. That's a very powerful table.
That was some round table. We solved every problem in the world. It's too bad.
I was going to say that. You stole that from my mouth. I was going to say we solved all the world's problems like in half hour. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
That was awesome. Well, it's awesome having you on board, and I appreciate you being with us. And Brownie Fox Publishing was glad to have you on, and we'd like to have you on in the future some other time. We appreciate your company.
Michael Jackson said, "Whenever you call me, I'll be there." And I appreciate because I appreciate it because this is what I do. And it's all about encouraging the electorate, encouraging people. You got to understand, people, I had no skills at this. I was a sports writer in music management. I had no inclination to ever want to do anything that would amount to anything political. And I just stepped out in faith and started a Facebook page, Nation Savers 2016, just to put a few things down on paper and look 5 years later. So just start. People start. Find a passion, start, and you never know where it'll take you.
I agree. Excellent show tonight, Gary. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'll be talking to you later. You take care, sir.
Thank you. God bless you, Carolyn, and the family.
Thank you. All right, that's the end of the broadcast. I just want to remind everybody, Brownie Fox up here, www.browniefoxpublishing.com. If you're an aspiring author or you got a manuscript, you can send it to us. We accept unsolicited manuscripts. We're looking for new authors, people to sign. So give us a shout out or give us an email, browniefoxpublishing@gmail.com. Just send those to there. And thank you, everyone, for tonight's show. And goodbye.